Howdy friendos, my name is Stuart, and welcome to the part of the channel where we take a look at pop culture characters and determine what alignment they are in Dungeons & Dragons. Today, we're going to take a look at the youngest of the MCU heroes, and that is Peter Parker, otherwise known as Spider-Man. In my Doctor Strange video, I asked you guys what you thought the best suggestions for the next hero was, and the ones that I got the most were Loki, Star-Lord, and of course, Spider-Man. However, there was a slight caveat with the Spider-Man one, and people also asked me to look at the Sam Raimi and the Amazing Spider-Man films, and I'm sorry to say, at the moment, we're not going to do that. Not only do I need to keep my schedule fast and loose, I also need to keep it low for the new editors that I'm bringing on, including X the Dark One, who's back again. Say hi, X. He's my MCU guy, and he's been doing really well. The Doctor Strange video went over great last week thanks to him. Anyway, let's take a look at our character. Everyone knows the standard Peter Parker story. Peter was a normal but kind-hearted kid who lived with his aunt and uncle. One day he got bitten by a radioactive spider that gave him superpowers. After that, Peter's Uncle Ben was murdered by a thug that Peter could have stopped, but didn't for some reason. And if you thought that run through was fast, well, the MCU didn't even give us that. See, when Marvel introduced this Peter Parker into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they realized that people had already seen the Spider-Man origin story so many times that it was unnecessary, and they just skipped it. Everyone knows that great power comes with great responsibility, so they just skipped all of that and put Peter in the Spider-Man costume right away, which is honestly perfect. The first scene we get of Spider-Man is him being approached by Tony Stark and being recruited into helping the Avengers in Civil War. He's a good and kind-hearted, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man who does nice things for people because of the principle that his uncle left behind. With great power, well, you know the rest. So yeah, a rather straightforward video. The MCU seems to want to give Spider-Man and Iron Man a father-son dynamic, which I think works, but we'll definitely talk about that more in the post-analysis section. So with all that out of the way, let's go.
On the ruse! Nice job, kid.
Thanks. Don't tell Aunt May.
All right, Spider-Man. Give me this.
Sorry.
In Civil War, Tony recruits Peter to help him bring in Captain America peacefully. Peter does and uses the most non-violent methods to do so. Also, despite how cute the details are, Peter goofing off as shown at the beginning of Homecoming doesn't really count. Lawful good. For the past 2 months, Peter has kept his nose clean and has been prioritizing being a superhero over his schoolwork, extracurricular life, and social life, despite the fact that he really doesn't need to. We're just gonna give him 2 neutral good dings for being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Also 1 general chaotic good for just stealing school supplies to make webbing and the occasional moment where he neglects his prior commitments.
What's up, guys? You forget your PIN number?
In an attempt at stopping a bank robbery, the deli guy in the store across the street almost gets injured. Peter prioritizes helping him over stopping the bad guys. He then reports what he saw to Happy. Lawful good. One night after returning home, Peter's friend Ned discovers him coming back. Peter just kinda tells him the truth and fesses up. Considering this is a reaction and not an active telling, I'm just gonna say neutral. While at Liz's party, Peter notices tech discharging and decides to investigate the suspicious activity. Arguably chaotic good, but since he's just ditching a party, I'm just gonna say neutral good.
Come on, man, I don't need training wheels. I'm sick of him treating me like a kid all the time.
But you are a kid.
Yeah, a kid who can stop a bus with his bare hand.
Despite Tony's warnings, Peter continued tracking some big shot weapons dealer on his own. To do this, he lied to his teachers to go on a field trip, he lied to Happy about what he was planning, hacked a bazillion-dollar spider suit, ditched his friends and teammates during their team-building exercises, lied to his suit's AI, ditched detention, unlawfully imprisoned Uncle Aaron, lied to Tony's face, ruined an FBI sting operation, and nearly killed a bunch of people on a ferry. We're just gonna give Peter like 3 chaotic good dings for all of this. However, we're not gonna ignore him saving the kids in the Washington Monument or attempting to save everyone on a boat. Neutral good twice.
If you even cared, you'd actually be here.
God, this is just a nat 20 scene for both Peter and Tony. If you don't believe that there's a father-son dynamic, you really gotta watch this scene again. Tony really believed that Peter was going to be the better Iron Man in the future, but Tony reminds himself and Peter that the idea of a 15-year-old being a crime-fighting superhero is wildly inappropriate. Both of them come to the realization that Peter isn't ready for handling these sort of big responsibilities. Peter accepts Stark's punishment and starts focusing on school again, his social life, and other things a teen should focus on. Nat 20 scene and neutral.
He must be Peter.
Holy shit! This is honestly one of the best reveals in all the MCU. Peter discovers that his date's dad is the Vulture, and arguably one of the most intense reveals of all time. Their car trip heading to the dance is just this really elegant dance of words as Liz is slowly and accidentally revealing important information about Peter to her dad as Peter tries to cover up his own actions throughout the movie. God, Homecoming is so good. Also, Peter ditches the dance to go stop him, so chaotic good and nat 20 scene.
Ned, the guy with the wings is Liz's dad. What? I know, I gotta tell Mr. Stark. Call Happy Hogan. He's Mr. Stark's head of security.
Peter does have Ned call Happy, who ignores them. Lawful good. Also, an extra lawful good for imprisoning Shocker with those web shooters.
Hey! Surprised?
Oh, hey, Pete. I didn't hear you come in.
Again, consolidating a lot here. Peter encounters Vulture in his lair and tries to talk him down. Vulture then traps him in a bunch of rubble, and then Peter gets out. Vulture then hijacks Stark's plane and takes a bunch of tech. Peter foils the robbery, fights Vulture, saves him from his own hubris, and turns him into damage control. Lawful good twice.
Why don't you try that on? And I'll introduce the world, the newest official member of the Avengers, Spider-Man.
Thank you, Mrs. Stark, but I'm good.
Peter turns down becoming an Adventurer to become the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He continues this for some time until Infinity War. Neutral good, twice.
Hey, man. What's up, Mr. Stark?
Peter abandons a school trip in order to investigate an alien spaceship. He then helps Tony protect Doctor Strange and then hops into the spaceship to pursue them, even after Tony tells him to go home. We're just gonna give him 2 neutral good dings for this.
Don't pretend you thought this
No, I
through.
did
I know
think
you
this through.
didn't.
I
You
did
could
think this
not
through.
have possibly thought
You
this
can't
through.
be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood.
Damn it, I love this Peter. Iron and Spider-Man save Doctor Strange. Neutral good.
All right, kid. You're an Avenger now.
Hilariously tragic moment. It's what Peter always wanted, but it's an extremely grim circumstance. Becoming an Avenger, teaming up with Doctor Strange, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy to stop Thanos is lawful good twice. While Thanos is fighting Strange and Tony, Peter takes the time to save the Guardians. Neutral good.
Stark? I don't feel so good.
Teaming up to save the universe is lawful good.
I got it! Activate instant kill!
Peter trying his best to get the gauntlet away from Thanos is neutral good, especially considering how he protects it with his life.
Peter Parker.
Hey, Peter Parker. You got something for me?
I love how just being around Peter Parker makes other characters better. Peter gives the gauntlet to a stronger Avenger so that she can get it to where it needs to go. Very team player. Lawful good.
Oh, I gotta go.
You gotta talk to him.
I'm gonna call him. I promise you, I'm gonna call him. I will.
You do not ghost Nick Fury.
Peter repeatedly says he's not going to do any superheroing while he's on his trip in Europe. I'm sure the movie will let that happen. Chaotic neutral.
Come on.
Don't you just hate it when the interdimensional primal elemental being ruins your confession to your high school crush? His problem was confessing during a Spider-Man movie. Rookie mistake. Neutral good.
You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man.
Peter is pretty much strong-armed into going along with Fury's plan to fight the elementals. Honestly, the most unrealistic part about this whole thing is the teacher saying, "Oh, hey, we got this free thing and we're just gonna go along with it." As if it wouldn't require 1.5 million permission slips from both his school, principal, and parents.
Target is Brad Davis. Initiating strike.
Initiating what now?
Peter accidentally sets up a drone strike on his classmate while trying to hack his phone to delete a lewd photo that his classmate took of him. Honestly, they're both kinda in the wrong here. Peter for hacking a phone, and the classmate is wrong for basically blackmailing Peter with a compromising photo. Jesus Christ. Peter saves the kid from the drone strike, so neutral good or whatever.
Okay, he's here. Beck, are you ready?
Peter plays support to Mysterio when fighting the Fire Elemental, and he saves Ned and Ned's girlfriend. Listen, I don't know her name and I'm not gonna look it up. Lawful good.
So the world needs the next Iron Man. And it's not gonna be me. I mean, I'm a 16-year-old kid from Queens.
Peter gives Edith the ridiculously OP defense system to what is essentially a stranger. He does this because he wants to go be a normal kid, and he believes that Beck can handle it. You could say he thinks Beck is the better pick, but in my mind, and I think in Peter's mind as well, he's just looking for an out to the situation. Chaotic neutral.
Parker.
What's wrong?
It's Beck. He's here.
After finding out about Beck's illusions, Peter heads to Berlin to report to Nick Fury. Beck then tricks him with a, not gonna lie, a really stellar Nat 20 scene. Lawful good.
I'll take care of the music.
Oh, I love Led Zeppelin.
Oh god, Peter, come on. Chaotic neutral for not even knowing who Black Sabbath is?
Come on, Peter Tingle.
Peter uses his Peter Tingle to save London Bridge. Neutral good.
Here's the real blockbuster. Brace yourselves, you might want to sit down.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
What the?
So originally when I watched this particular MCU character, I didn't originally buy the father-son dynamic between Peter and Iron Man. I felt a lot of the problems with this was because Peter did most of his bonding on screen with Karen, his suit's AI. But upon further rewatching, I took it from the point of view of Tony rather than Peter himself. Tony didn't really have a great relationship with his father, despite it being revealed later how much he actually loved him, so he treated Peter as half a surrogate son and half of a project. Just how Howard treated Tony. It wasn't until Spider-Man Homecoming before both Peter and Tony realized how much they relied on each other for this relationship. And I know I'm talking about Tony a lot, but Tony is attached to Peter really hard in the MCU. Tony seemed to always want Peter to be his successor. He was just hit harder than most with the curse of knowledge, and we'll talk more about that in the Iron Man video. Peter Parker actually kind of wanted the same thing, but was just blinded by the inexperience of youth and, well, experience in general. Peter is just one of those characters that makes everyone better around him, and that's perfectly reflected in his final alignment. Peter made Vulture a better person by saving him and thus giving him at least some semblance of honor in prison. Ned became a much more proactive and brave kid thanks to Peter. Tony Stark learned just how unprepared he was as a father, and he gains new insight for Endgame. And hell, even Captain Marvel becomes a human for a few seconds just standing near him. The MCU Peter is practically perfect as a character as far as I'm concerned, especially as a successor for Iron Man. The next time we meet up, I think we're going to go ahead and do Star-Lord, but Loki is on the table as well. So what do you guys think? Give me a comment, and I'll see you next time.